Hello, I'm Charles Reed Anderson, and today we're going to look at smart cities and how the cities have ranked in 2020. And to do that, I'm going to take a look at the big rankings that have come out recently. The first one comes from IMD, the Swiss Business School. The second one is from IESE, the Spanish Business School. And finally, we're going to take a look at the one from Kearney, the consulting firm. Now, each of these institutions has been releasing their rankings for a number of years. They each look at over 100 cities, and they look at anywhere from dozens to over 100 different quantitative and qualitative metrics. But what I want to see is not only the individual rankings, I want to see how consistent they are. But let's start out by looking at IMD. I myself am based in Singapore, so I'm pleased to see Singapore retain its position as the number one ranked smart city in the world. What you saw also is that Helsinki has moved up 6 places to number 2, and the rest of the top 10 has pretty much stayed the same, with the exception of New York, which moved up 28 places this year to number 10. So I'm not sure what they did during the pandemic, but obviously it must have worked. But now, how does that top 10 compare to the ones you see from IESE and Kearney? And when you look at it, what you see is actually barely any of IMD's top 10 are in the other top 10s, or even the other top 20s for that matter. Singapore ranks number 1 from IMD and number 9 in the other 2 rankings. But New York's the only other one that ranks in the top 10 in all 3. And when you start going down the list, it gets pretty varied. Look at Helsinki. IMD ranks at number 2, but Kearney ranks at number 60 in the world. Oslo's ranked number 5 by IMD, but number 54 from Kearney. And then Copenhagen's ranked number 6 from IMD and IESE, yet number 49 from Kearney. So I think there's some kind of a Nordic bias there, and I'm not sure why. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, what about the other cities that I go and visit that, well, I think are pretty smart, and how did they perform? So let's think about it. Hong Kong, how did they do? Well, actually, not too bad. IMD ranked them as number 32, but they come in as high as number 6. But then one city you've heard a lot about the last 12 to 24 months is Paris. And yes, it gets ranked very high by IESE and Kearney at number 3, but then IMD only ranks it at number 61. And then one of my other favorite cities, Tokyo, it's one of the smartest places you can go. Yet somehow it ranks number 4 from IESE and Kearney and only number 79 from IMD. I guess they're getting penalized because they still use fax machines. And finally, Beijing is one where we've heard a lot about it the last 12 months. And yes, they are ranked high by Kearney, number 5. Yet it's only in the 80s in the other rankings. And this is a challenge because we really don't know which is the smartest, but you're probably asking, well, which one's the most accurate? And I've got good news. They all are, because we don't have a standard definition for what a smart city is. We don't have a common metrics where we know what to actually rank it against. And let me explain it like this. Look at these kids here. In this race, we have a metric. When they hit the finish line, the first one who crosses it is ranked number 1. We don't have anything like that for smart cities. The methodologies are all subjective, so therefore, they're all actually accurate based on their own methodology. But then you're thinking, well, which one is the best, and which one would you use? And I'm glad you've asked, because I'm happy to announce the second annual Charles Reed Anderson Perfect Smart City Ranking, or my C.R.A.P Smart City Ranking for short. Now, those other institutions have a lot of resources and time to create their methodologies. I don't, so I have to be quick and easy about it. And plus, I don't want to overcomplicate my C.R.A.P methodology. So all I did was found the cities that were ranked by each of those 3 institutions, came up with the sum total of their rankings, and divided by 3. If you remember my first C.R.A.P Smart City Ranking last year, you know that Singapore was the winner. Now the question is, were they able to retain top spot? And the answer is no, they were not able to do it, because top spot is now New York, followed by London, with Singapore coming in number 3. I do actually have a pretty decent variety within there. I've got 3 from Asia Pacific, 3 from North America, and 4 from Europe as well. And my big riser this year comes from Hong Kong, which went up 13 places and is now ranked number 8 in my C.R.A.P Smart City Ranking. So now, what conclusions can you draw from my C.R.A.P ranking? Well, none, because it's C.R.A.P. But I do have some tips for you about cities and what you should be looking at. Instead of focusing on the rankings, why don't you try to be like Taipei? Create an innovative ecosystem that allows you to source and test innovative smart city solutions in a fast and efficient manner. Now, Taipei has proactively engaged over 500 technology vendors in recent years and run over 200 proof of concepts. They've created the ideal smart city innovation testbed. Or why don't you try to be like Darwin? in Australia, and think about the security and ethical use of the data that you're capturing as a city. So this small city in Australia's Northern Territory is at the forefront of AI and how CCTV can be used for facial and vehicle recognition. And let's face it, those are pretty touchy subjects. So to address the citizens' concerns, Darwin worked with Singapore's IMDA, which is its telecom regulator, to implement their AI governance framework to ensure the responsible implementation of these solutions. Or finally, why don't you be like Songdo? Create an innovative research partnership. So they've actually partnered with Stanford University to create a PPP, public-private partnership, to look at the future of cities. Now, cities capture a lot of data. That doesn't always translate into actionable intelligence. So this PPP is going to look at the data that's captured and how it can be leveraged to do things like reduce their costs or maybe streamline a business process and hopefully generate some new revenue streams. So in closing, just remember that smart city rankings need to be taken with a pinch of salt. They're a lot of fun to read, and I do like them, believe it or not, and they're great for marketing if you do well, but they're not an accurate reflection of how smart a city is.